Welcome back, Sunnyslope alumni. My name is Gilbert Gallagher, and we are on the Sunnyslope Alumni podcast. Really excited for this guest today. It's one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. I would like to thank all of the alumni for liking and subscribing. This channel is taking off, so this is great. Make sure you fill out your questionnaire so you can come on here. But with that being said, here we have one of my really good friends, Chris Tiller.
Gilbert, how are you, sir? Good to see you.
Oh, Chris, you don't know how excited I am to see you all the time.
The introduction. That was quite the introduction. I'll take it.
Well, okay. I'm going to go a little bit off track because I just think you're one of the most amazing football players I ever played with.
I don't know about that. You played with quite a few, so that's.
I played with quite a few, and that's what I'm saying. Is here you are, undersized fullback, right?
Very, yeah.
And you led the state in receiving yards.
Well, let's be honest about who was throwing the rock around, right? You put me on a different team, I think it's a different outcome. But when you have, Arizona's God's gift to football and Mike Nixon throwing the ball around, it certainly helps. So I can't take credit like I was the one.
We joked around a lot about this, but a lot of those were just screen passes.
Well, yeah, and so that was the other thing too, is so you get me, who nobody even keys in on, right? You got you coming, they're concerned about you getting handed the ball, so they got to double team you inside, and then outside, we had wide receiver threats. So I just kind of float around and catch the outside stuff, and it just seemed to work out. So I was kind of the beneficiary, I think, of some quite a bit better talent. So it was just nice to be there.
All right. Now back into the regular program schedule. So tell us how you got to Sunnyslope. What was that process like?
So I actually went to Washington Elementary at 27th Avenue Northern, which is kind of where I grew up. My mom and dad split very young, so I kind of split time there. But so I was kind of in that Maryvale-ish area, right on the border. And then my mom got remarried right around like Orchid and 17th Ave, so right kind of near Richard E. Miller. So I went to Royal Palm and then over to Sunnyslope. That was kind of my track. So I grew up in that neighborhood, kind of by Butler Park. That was kind of my stomping ground. So everybody's pretty familiar with that area. But I was on the Avenue side, so I'm kind of more with the blue collar kids, which is where we grew up.
Okay, so when you're with the blue collar kids, tell me tell everybody what years you attended Slope and what Slope was like when you went there.
So I graduated in 2001. So those 4 years is when I was there. What it was like. So it was very diverse, which was super cool. Coming from Royal Palm over, you kind of had that mishmash where you had like the Madison kids coming over from kind of that north central area, and then us coming from the west, meeting in the middle. So you had a really interesting mix of different groups. And it was really kind of the start when a lot of the academic met the athletic. So we started really seeing some really good athletes come in and skipping out on schools where they normally would have gone, like a St. Mary's or something like that, more in that central area, coming to Slope. I think the baseball team had a pretty good season, and then we really kind of hit the map on the football side. So you saw this really interesting mix of people that were coming through. So that was kind of my experience was, and you don't really know when you're there. You just assume that that's everyone's experience. But now looking back, it's extremely unique. I wish everybody kind of had that experience, but I would say that was kind of more that's how I viewed it, was just a really cool, interesting, diverse group of people that kind of all came together with really interesting pride behind a school, which doesn't seem to happen as much as it used to. So it's kind of how I thought of it.
Now, can you describe for us, like, in your own eyes, who was Chris Tiller back then?
Oh, Jesus. I was kind of an asshole. a little bit of a prick. I was pretty arrogant. I mean, I definitely still come across that way, but at least now I know I'm not serious with it. Like, I know I'm kind of a clown. So it's kind of I don't know. I guess it was a lot of insecurity kind of coming through because I was kind of a little kid that kind of played up from my football stuff. I mean, I had good friends. I had a good group of friends that I really liked and I think liked me. But overall, I think I don't know. I was just kind of that jerk jock kid who thought he was, better than some things. And, some of that carried around. But again, I think that was just more insecurity than real arrogance about how cool I thought I was. But I mean, overall, I loved my experience in high school, especially looking back. I enjoyed every minute of it for a bunch of different reasons. But, I didn't stay in touch with a whole lot of people. Some of it was more like, hey, this isn't really who I am anymore. So hopefully when you see me now, you don't, cast this like overshadow, this guy's still an asshole. I mean, I was nice enough. It is not who I am now. So, that was just kind of the gist of who I kind of thought I was back then. I don't know if that's how people perceive me or not, but looking back, I kind of laugh at myself. I'm like, really? You thought you were cool? Like me and a couple buddies rolling around in like a mom's minivan listening to Tupac, it was like, come on, man. But I guess that's kind of everybody's high school experience. You grow up and look back and you're like, these posters were really on your wall or whatever. So, yeah, it was good. I mean, I enjoyed every minute of it. I am very proud to say that I was from Sunnyslope. I think most people are. So that's kind of how I would, I guess, I don't know. That makes sense.
It does, because that, like, the way that you describe yourself is exactly how I think we put out in our athletics to other schools, and we were the undersized school.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that we absolutely needed. Now, you mentioned, hanging out with some of your friends. You want to name some of your friends that you had back in the day?
Oh God, that's been a long time. So like Aaron Ship, I think you've had him on the podcast. That was pretty good. He's probably my closest friend from high school. We talk periodically. I see him a couple times a year. Usually we grab lunch and catch up. He was just always a very kind of, in my opinion, was like the epitome of like what a Sunnyslope character might be. Just extremely authentic, super nice, not trying to impress anybody, just who he was all the time. And I really gravitated towards that. Cody Nielsen was a good friend of mine at the time. I haven't talked to him in quite a long time. And then probably as far as like, I mean, I wasn't super close to a lot of people. I mean, I had a girlfriend for a lot of high school on and off, Rachel Barnier, but I don't talk to her at all. I mean, so it's hard to tell just because I haven't talked about this stuff in so long, but I would say my closest would be like Aaron Ship, and then probably you. I mean, you're probably the only guy I still talk to frequently, I would say.
Now, okay, let's look at some slope traditions. What are some of the slope traditions that you remember?
Fruit Wars, that was a good one. We had some boxing matches that were pretty fun. I really liked painting the S. I thought that was super cool. Doing it as a freshman and then flipping roles as a senior. That was kind of neat. I thought that was a good tradition. I'm trying to think. Those are the big ones that really stick out. And then just a lot of the football stuff that we did because I was kind of a sports guy. So, but those are the big ones. The painting the S I thought was really, really neat.
Do you want to tell us about a boxing match?
I'm trying to think. I think I can't remember a guy I fought. I'm pretty sure he beat me up. Or at least it was close. I don't remember. Who else? Casey Naylor had a couple good ones. He was a little bit older. I think Adam Harness had a couple good ones. But we had some athletes. James Bosom, I think, had a good one. There were a bunch. Yeah, they were all pretty good. We had some guys that could thump, man. We were one of those schools. We were rowdy.
I mentioned this with Blueford, right?
Oh, how, like, Myron,
yeah. Here Chris Tiller is part of that 22 crew that we were talking about.
Yeah, 22 deep. Yeah,
22 deep on varsity. It was like you were gonna play everything all the time, or that was it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny now. Most people, I mean, I don't know how many people watching this are interested in high school athletics, but you know, even back then, 22 people on a football team, it was kind of unheard of. You know, we'd show up to play like Scottsdale Saguaro or Chaparral, something like that, and they'd have like 2 chartered busfuls of kids that only played offense with backups to the backups. You know, and we showed up with 22 and only like 15 of us played. I mean, it was 11. You started both ways and played special teams. So it was just a different mix. And it's interesting now looking back, you know, people almost don't believe you, but yeah, that kind of defined our school, right? We were small, but at the end of the day, we typically outwork most people, super diverse. And yeah, when you play us or go up against us, even if you do win, you're not going to want to do it again. It's not going to go well for you, whether you win or lose. So we just kind of had that mentality. It was good. I enjoyed it. And that really carried through. I mean, all the friends that I played football with, they seemed to really have that drive and that motivation of effort and overcoming stuff and things like that. Cause that was kind of our background in our school. So I thought it was good.
Now you hit on a little bit. Is there any influential people or teachers that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, actually I talked to my sister about this. Do you remember, and she said her name, but I couldn't remember. There was a math teacher, and if she was more than 4 foot, I'd be surprised. She was super tiny. I think it was Miss Perrone. Yeah, Miss Perrone. Okay, Miss Perrone. You know, being who I was at the time and being very uninterested in school, to have that, if you saw her, I mean, you remember what she was like, right? I mean, how much do you think she weighed? 80 pounds? I mean, she was tiny. And she had me interested in calculus of all things. I mean, it was just her ability to create interest among that. It was just very, very impactful. Dallas Hickman, so the football coach, who also did, I think, some administrative stuff. He was, I think, head and shoulders for me, the most influential, just because kind of he kept me on the straight and narrow and really imposed a lot of wisdom on me. I respected where he came from and all the stuff that he accomplished. But I mean, all those guys, for me, the sports guys like Damian Pierre, Coach Fisher, all those were good. One of the other ones that really impacted me, actually, I don't know if you remember Miss DiAgostino. Do you remember her?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay.
I used to give her rocks.
Okay. Well, Miss DiAgostino pulled me outside one day and was very excited to tell me that she didn't think I was going to be capable, accomplish, or do anything important with my life because of what a clown I was. And it was one of the most insulting things an adult has ever told me. But being the person that I am, that was probably one of the more motivating factors I've ever had coming out of high school. I just said, whether it was her or anybody else, I'm going to prove this lady wrong. To be fair, I probably deserved it, probably because of what I put her through in her classroom. But she had a very, very big impact on me, and I thank her for how tough she was on me. And that was a lot of our teachers, at least for me, because I was tough on them. So having a lot of those pushbacks, and they had a lot more flexibility back then, I think, to be more aggressive, rough, curse a little bit when I needed it, those kinds of things. So those were probably the main, I think, contributors to what I thought was the biggest impact for me. Yeah, they were good.
Is there anything that you would change going back?
No, not at all. I think not at all. Everything that I went through, both good and bad, I think is what I needed to kind of set me on my path. And I wouldn't change anything. And even going back now, I wouldn't even go to another school. It's exactly where I think I should have been, I think, for a bunch of reasons. But no, I think Sunnyslope is amazing. As you know, I do real estate. So I still sell houses quite a bit in there. And everyone that even lands in that neighborhood for one reason or the other is just so surprised at how more unique that area is than really anywhere else in the valley. They know their neighbors, the schooling, the sports, the culture, everything about it is super cool. So no, I wouldn't change anything.
Now, I was going to ask, because you started out, it's like, who are you now? What do you do now? Because you hit on real estate, but how would you describe yourself right now?
I'm much more laid back. So how would I describe myself? I'm still the goofy, funny kid. I like to have a good time. Yeah. But as God does his favorite things in the world, I have two daughters, which is exactly what I deserve, apparently. So I spend a lot of time with them. They're only 4 and 5, so they're super fun. But yeah, so I'm in real estate. That's kind of I would say the majority of what I do as far as work. I am also a captain with the Mesa Fire Department. So I just passed 17 years. So I got just under 3 years left with them before I retire from there. And I'll continue real estate. And I live in Chandler. It's suburbia. It's a little different than Sunnyslope. So my wife is from the Midwest. So she kind of has those Midwest values, and she kind of looks for those from like schools and things like that. And I think me and you are much more in line with, the grit and the effort and that kind of thing is really what we're pushing. So I ended up here, and now actually I think our kids are probably going to go to the same school in Chandler, which is quite ironic. But yeah.
Now, I think you're selling yourself short with being a father of daughters, or a girl dad, as everybody's saying.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that I saw you be an older brother. How much of the ways that you were an older brother have you utilized as being a father?
And my sister Kelly, so not as much. Kelly didn't need a whole lot. She's a beast. I mean, from a personality standpoint, I didn't have to worry about her. She's a monster. She's just a athletic freak. She's aggressive. She's very A-type personality. She's not scared of anything. So there was no real concern. If anything, I kind of felt bad for her boyfriends. I'm like, man, if you can handle this, dude, good luck. She is a handful. She just has that fiery personality. And so we got along great. I mean, we would fight like cats and dogs at times, but so to be totally fair, I'm trying to get my daughters to have some of that personality too. I grew up with very strong women. I married a very strong woman, and they're not for everybody. You have to know what you're getting yourself into. But I would say I carried some of it just because I know what made my sister successful. I know the personality type. And so I'm trying to instill that in my daughters, I would say, more than anything else. Because I don't care what you do, just be the best and try the hardest, and you usually get the outcome you're looking for. So I would say a little bit, but man, Kelly, it wasn't like I had to walk around and protect her. I mean, she's going to be fine.
So I'm going to share a story
of
a boyfriend.
Okay.
Or I don't know what the scenario was, but then all of a sudden he was on the other basketball team.
Sounds about right.
I've never seen somebody hit the ground like no fouls were called, like so strategically as you put that kid on the ground. It was almost like every single play.
When was this? I don't remember this at all.
This was, I think it was in a summer league basketball game.
Okay.
I think it was like Duff was the coach there.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's old school. I haven't heard that name in 20 years.
Yeah. And then every time I looked up, that kid was on the ground.
I wonder if he learned his lesson.
And there's you just laughing at him. And then when they finally called the foul on you, and then some words came out, and I was like, okay, this is my guy right here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember, if you knew this, my sister played Pop Warner football, not flag. Like they didn't have that back then. It was real Pop Warner. So I don't remember what age she was, but so she ended up, I want to say she was 9, maybe 9, and I was 10. And she played D-line, and I think either led or tied the team for sacks, and they were good. It's not like they weren't a good team. And I think Nixon was even on that team. So I want to say they actually won like whatever division for Pop Warner. But so yeah, she was not a concern for me as a protection. She didn't need it. I may have used it as an excuse to be an asshole to somebody who was being mean to her. But yeah, she's still not somebody I have to really worry about outside of making sure she doesn't hurt anybody.
Are your daughters going to play football?
No, they're not. They do jujitsu. So I'm trying to at least keep them physical and what's the word? Just strong, independent women. And I think they're coming along, but it takes some time and they like it. So yeah, I don't know if football's in their future, but we'll see. They're still young.
So you shared with us who you were. You shared with us who you are. How did you get to there? How did you get here where you are right now?
A lot of mistakes. I guess that's kind of how we all grow, right? You do something wrong, you learn from it, and you try to make yourself better. I would say a big thing for me was, and I think Dallas Hickman, we kind of talked about, was a big influence me on this, was, he always imposed on me, listen, if you want to be somewhere, find someone who's already there and duplicate what they did. And it's that easy. And it sounded silly at the time, but, he said, be honest about what you're capable of, and then find a direction that you want to go and duplicate somebody who's already laid that path. And then don't stop. You can't lose if you don't quit, sort of thing. And that's what he told me. So when I came to him actually out of one of the biggest eye-opening lessons for me was when he's like, hey, what do you want to do for college? And I said, well, I want to play D1 football. And he laughed at me like Dallas should. Cause I'm a slow, at the time, 5'9" white kid, 160 pounds. Like even now it's laughable. And he said, yeah, that's not happening. I mean, I appreciate it. You did great here, but it's not going to work. He goes, what you need to do is you need to find a school with the best academics where you can still play, see the field, do that, and don't look back. And I took his advice. I learned a lot from even just those little nuances that he would bring, and I've kind of duplicated that ever since. And so I would say that's kind of the biggest piece, I would say, is how I got from there to here. And so you just get up every day and chase something new about where you want to end up and find somebody that's already done it and follow them around until you get there. It's simple, but I wouldn't say it's easy.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today. People are still, like, I'm so happy. Once again, I'm so happy that you're here because everybody gets to see the guy that I know, the guy that I love, right? Like,
good.
That's this guy right here. I'm just gonna let if there's some words of advice that you want to share with our alum, yeah, the floor is yours.
And advice. No, I would say this is a great example. When you find someone on here that you either connected with or didn't connect with, it's interesting watching a lot of these stories that come out now where you haven't heard somebody's name in 20 years. Even just reach out and just say congratulations about whatever it is that they're doing. I mean, we all have kind of that long road to get where we're at. None of it's ever easy. And if you think about kind of where we all came from in that Sunnyslope area, we weren't the richest, we weren't the most recruited, we weren't whatever you want to call it. And for a lot of us to come out and be doing so successful at whatever it is you define as success, I think it's a pretty cool testament to the community. So if you can just show your appreciation to people that are still trying to do that stuff with kids there. I know I donate to like the volleyball teams and the football teams, and anything you can do to help support those kids coming out of there, I think it makes a big difference. And if you see somebody on here that is doing something pretty cool, reach out and tell them congratulations, let them know that you're in support of it. And if there's anything you can do to help, continue that kind of what made us successful coming out of there. And I think if we continue to kind of build together, it's going to benefit us all. So that's what I would say.
Slope wins every day. I'm telling you.
And even when we don't, we do. You know what I mean?
That's just our way, right?
That's what we do.
No matter where we went.
Yeah.
Just keep fighting. Just keep fighting. If you're out there and you got something going on, man, take these words to heart. Move forward. Don't look back.
Right.
You can do it.
You got help. You just reach out. We're all here for each other. So that's what we're here for. I like it.
Well, that's it for today, everybody. Once again, if you can, like and subscribe, hit that bell button there. This is a great, once again, Chris, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this. I know we appreciate it.
Yeah. Everybody, we will be right back. Stay tuned.
Yeah.